For 40 days, the shadows of dread had stretched across the valley of Elah. 40 days, the very heart of Israel had quaked beneath the taunts of a giant. It was a time of immense fear, of faltering faith, and of a nation teetering on the precipice of despair. King Saul, chosen by God to lead his people, found himself paralyzed. The Philistine champion, Goliath of Gath, a behemoth of a man, stood nearly 10 feet tall, a living embodiment of terror. His bronze armor alone weighed thousands of shekels, his spear an iron beam. Every morning, every evening, he would stride into the valley, his booming voice echoing like thunder, challenging any Israelite to single combat. Should he win, Israel would become slaves to the Philistines. Should an Israelite prevail, the Philistines would serve Israel. But no man dared to step forward. Not a single warrior, not even King Saul himself, could brave the fear that Goliath inspired. The spirit of Israel, once so vibrant with faith, was faltering. Yet, far from the grim theater of war, in the quiet pastures of Bethlehem, a different kind of spirit was being nurtured. Here, among the flocks of Jesse, was a young shepherd boy named David. The youngest of 8 sons, he was often overlooked, his days spent in solitude, tending his father's sheep, honing his skills with a sling, and most importantly, nurturing a deep and abiding faith in the living God. David was not a warrior by trade, but his heart was ablaze with courage born of conviction. He had faced lions and bears that threatened his flock, dispatching them not with brute strength, but with divine assistance in his trusty sling. These quiet victories, though unseen by man, were preparing him for a battle far greater than any he could imagine. It was then that Jesse, his father, bade him go to the camp to bring provisions to his elder brothers, who were serving in Saul's army. An innocent errand, yet it was a divine appointment. As David approached the Israelite encampment, the sounds of war began to penetrate the serene silence of the hills. The clamor of the camp, the distant shouts, the underlying hum of fear. It was all alien to his shepherd's life, but nothing could prepare him for what he was about to witness. He arrived to find the same scene that had played out for weeks. Goliath, in all his terrifying majesty, stood in the valley, his voice ripping through the air, spitting venomous insult to the armies of God. But unlike the soldiers who trembled in fear, a different emotion surged within David. Not fear, but holy anger. How could this uncircumcised Philistine defy the armies of the living God? How could God's people allow such blasphemy to stand? He heard the promises of King Saul, riches, the king's daughter in marriage, and exemption from taxes for his father's house, for anyone who would defeat Goliath. But for David, the reward was secondary. His concern was for the honor of God. His eldest brother, Eliab, seeing David's fervent questions, scorned him, accusing him of pride and mischievousness. But David's spirit remained unyielding. Word of this audacious shepherd boy, who dared to question the fear that gripped the camp, reached King Saul's ears. Skeptical but desperate, Saul commanded that David be brought before him. When David stood before the king, Saul looked upon him with a mixture of disbelief and pity. This mere boy, against a seasoned giant? David, in confident and clear voice, said, "Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." Saul, a man of war, scoffed at the notion, replied, stating, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth." But David was undeterred. He recounted his past triumphs over the lion and the bear, attributing his victories not to his own strength, but to the hand of God. He said, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." A flicker of hope, long extinguished, ignited in Saul's weary heart. Could it be? Could this unassuming shepherd boy be the answer to their fervent prayers? And then Saul said, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Saul offered David his own armor, a king's protection, but it was too cumbersome, too heavy for the nimble shepherd. David knew his strength lay not in earthly protection, but in heavenly might. He chose instead his shepherd's staff, his trusty sling, and 5 smooth stones from the brook. Simple tools in the hands of a man of faith. And so, with courage burning in his heart and faith as a shield, David walked into the valley, not as a warrior, but as a messenger of the living God. The Philistine army roared with laughter. The Israelites watched with bated breath, and Goliath himself bellowed with scorn. When Goliath saw David, he despised him, seeing him as nothing more than a boy, armed with a stick and some stones. He said, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field." But David's reply was not of a scared youth, but of a confident champion of the Most High. David, with firm, clear, and unwavering tone, said, "You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel." Goliath, enraged by David's audacity, began to move towards him, his heavy armor clanking ominously. But David did not wait. He ran towards his colossal foe, his hand reaching for a stone. With practiced precision, he swung his sling, and the stone flew from his hand, propelled by a force far greater than his own. It struck Goliath squarely on his forehead, sinking deep into his skull. The giant, the terror of nations, the blasphemer God, crumpled to the earth with a sound like a falling tower. Silence descended upon the valley, a silence born of shock and awe. David, swift and resolute, ran to the fallen giant, drew Goliath's own massive sword, and severed his head, holding it aloft for all to see. The sight ignited a roar of triumph from the Israelite camp. Their fear transformed into a righteous fury. The Philistines, witnessing the downfall of their champion, their symbol of invincibility, broke ranks and fled in terror. The battle was joined, but it was no longer a battle of fear against strength, but of faith against despair. The Israelites pursued their enemies, liberating their land and reclaiming their dignity. That day, in the valley of Elah, a young shepherd boy, armed with nothing but faith and a sling, delivered an entire nation from the brink of destruction. He proved that true strength lies not in physical might, but in a firm trust in the power of the Almighty. The story of David and Goliath is more than a tale of a boy defeating a giant. It is a timeless testament to the power of faith in the face of insurmountable odds. It reminds us that no challenge is too great for those who put their trust in the living God. David carried Goliath's head to Jerusalem, a monument to God's deliverance. The armor and weapons of the giant were stored as a perpetual reminder of the impossible victory. And David, the shepherd boy, continued his journey, guided by the hand of God. He would go on to become the greatest king of Israel, a man after God's own heart, whose lineage would one day bring forth the Messiah himself. His story echoes through the ages, a beacon of hope and a powerful reminder that with God, all things are possible. The roaring taunts of giants may shake the earth, but the quiet whisper of faith can move mountains. And so, the legacy of David, the boy who dared to believe, lives on, forever inscribed in the annals of faith, a testament to the eternal truth that the battle is the Lord's.